bro just exposed Wuthering Waves. It is insane, man. They try to hide it too. It's actually in the Korean side, but he found it anyway. Jesus Christ, what a detective. The gear system. Love it or hate it, it's a very important layer as to why we keep logging back in every single day to these live service games that are not so enjoyable to log in every single day because there's not much farming, and the farming can only be done through a daily stamina, and that can be pretty annoying at times, all right? Because they kind of want to monetize progress too, which is yucky. But all in all, I think it's very important to realize that whether you like or hate the stamina system, the fact is it's very enticing and adds a certain layer of additional layer of your desire to want to log in every single day. Because I think I speak for a lot of people, and I'm just calling it for what it is. Well, we typically log in true free-to-play fashions, mainly for the premium currency. Premium currency is definitely the most valuable thing, because we understand whilst you can make do without the best gear, you definitely want to get the characters to have the revamp and refreshing of the game itself. It's very important to us. Typically, I noticed back in the day when I started to get burnt out from gacha games, what I started doing is do daily activities, get the premium currency, and just kind of ignore the stamina. What I like something about Wuthering Waves, for example, the combat can be very fast in killing everything, NTE even more so, and double claiming helps a lot, and using your daily stamina actually translates to doing the daily activities you need to do to get the premium currency. Therefore, they work together in tangent. Sometimes, especially obtaining an echo in Wuthering Waves, you clear everything. You get not only the daily stamina, which you kind of wanted to do because it's progress for your account. It gives you more resources, especially in Wuthering Waves, where you cannot use other echoes that are not leveled for other echoes to level them up. You need the tubes, so it's very important that you do those for when you actually do get the character through the premium currency you're farming for every single day, that you're ready for them, that you can at least level their gear. Something very important to keep in mind. So it's a decent system that is somewhat well balanced. Now, however, the gear system in itself, whilst obtaining them can be somewhat simple in daily activities, actually obtaining the stats you want can be quite challenging. And it's obviously done on purpose because you're actually going to keep getting these things every single day. And if you were to get exactly what you want easily, you will not be as incentivized as, say, you only get, let's just say, XP for your next gear. Actually adding an additional layer of, I need to get this one stat, this one gear with this one stat with these substats, is an even additional layer to make you want to log in every single day, and makes the gear system aspect of the daily stamina login even more important. However, though, that's a bit of a double-edged sword, because I think I speak for the majority of us, where it can be very tilting. Oh yes, it is. And as frustrating as it is, we keep logging in every single day, hoping we can finally catch that break, which sometimes we do. I'm not going to sit and pretend I haven't gotten some godly echoes in my time, or artifacts, or whatever have you. But more often than not, you get the crap ones. And of course, if you were to get the good ones more than the crap ones, you won't value the good ones. And because of that, we're now, and if you haven't guessed it already, we're clearly entering artificial inflating of a value of a system that shouldn't be this annoying, right? Because it's valuable because you are technically inclined to want to do it every single day, and you want to get as much as possible off your efforts. But when you don't, well, it's very tilting, especially when you consider the fact that it's all luck. You know, you had as much chance to get what you want than not get what you want. But that's typically the banners, because one thing, also something important, I'll never forget this guy. He said, and I quote, for spenders, gear and the way it's rolled, etc., like if you have good rolls in your gear, is more of a flex than the characters, because the characters, I can always guarantee them, because if I spend X amount of money, I know I will get the character. But I can't spend as much money as I want towards the gear system. I can keep refreshing. The fact is, I have zero guarantee to get the gear I want, in the stats I want, in the rolls I want. I have more odds. I increase my odds by refreshing, duh. But the fact is, there is zero guarantee. Now, if you are a spender though, or a free-to-play considering to be a spender, at least do it smart by buying with a discount through today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by BuffBuff. I don't know about you, but considering where I live, unfortunately, the rates when it comes to my gacha spending can be a little too high, and the only way for me to balance that is through today's amazing sponsor, BuffBuff. If we go to buffbuff.com, you will notice that a Luna subscription is $3.30. If we go to my in-game store, well, you will notice that it's $6, which means I'm saving pretty much half of my money had I spent it on the game directly. And for all you wonderful people, you can get 30% off through the self top-up service, meaning you will be paying 70% the in-game price. What's a self top-up service, you may ask? Well, you have all the guidelines you need in their website right over there. It's very simple. Even an uncle and grandpa like myself managed to do it just fine. And I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised with the technology. It's just pretty impressive. So make sure you use BuffBuff for all your 2D anime Betty purchases using my link in the description box. Thank you, BuffBuff, for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. The gear system has, I feel like, the most layers of RNG one can have in these games. I think nothing is more RNG than the gear system. There's multiple layers. There's the 50-50 chance of getting the set you want, because in case you haven't noticed, I think this has started to happen to bosses too in Wuthering Waves, which is a huge complaint of mine, where one boss can now drop 2 sets. At some point it was 1 set for a lot of them. For the most of them, I think it's 1 set, but for some of them, it's 2. That just pisses me off. So you have to win the 50-50 there. Not that big of a deal. Forecasts, for example, are cheap for free. You can just have to keep repeating them. Could be a hassle from time to time, but it's fine. Next, you have to look at the main stat. Now, the main stat can be a bit annoying. However, for example, in Wuthering Waves, we have the modifier. Now, the modifier allows you to choose which main stat you want. Modifiers are somewhat scarce, but I don't know. For me personally, I haven't been using them a lot. I still have, I always have like 20 or 40 of them, and I use them quite a bit sometimes. So, you know, it's not that scarce. It's fine. It's fine. Next is where the problem starts, which is the substats. Now, you want specific substats, and I think, for example, in Wuthering Waves, which is what we're talking about today, there's 13 substats. That's 13 of them babies. That is a lot of substats. Typically, you only want 2 or 3 for individual characters. Typically, the same culprits in terms of crit rate, crit damage for DPSs, attack percent, added bonus there. That would always be nice. But typically, crit rate, crit damage is what's gonna enhance your damage the most out of all the stats. Energy is important as well. You want to have it around from time to time. Attack percent is always welcome. This is just obviously for DPSs. The formula shifts depending on the character's kit. This is something to keep in mind as well as we progress in this. And finally, there's a 4th layer of RNG that I think a lot of players, especially casuals like myself, ignore, but can definitely be a problem the moment you start a min-max and notice that your character will be fixed if you can just mid-max a little bit, which is obviously how high and low of a roll your substats get. Because as soon as you get a substat, there's a high and low roll. Now, games like NTE has basically tackled that and removed this layer of RNG, because the moment you get the substat, like, that's it. There is no high roll or low roll. You're gonna get 10 crit rate. You're gonna get 20 crit damage. The moment you got them, and also you get to see what to roll, and that's, I feel like, something very important. It's kind of like a sub layer, but it's not a layer of RNG, but more so just a factor to add in, which is to level up these gears. You need let's just say resources, and these resources, for example, in Wuthering Waves, can only be obtained by doing the daily grind. You cannot use level 0 echoes towards upgrading another one like the other games. Typically artifacts, you can just use any artifact. That's basically your resources, which you can also farm for free in the open world from time to time, lower rarities to be specific. I think in Honkai Star Rail as well, if I'm not mistaken. You can also NTE, what I like the best about it is modules, even 3-star or 4-star, can be used for your character. They're not bad. Like, you don't always have to use the gold ones. You can use the epic, the purple ones, or the blue ones. It's fine. Like, they're okay nonetheless. Like, I feel like that is a huge W of NTE's gear system that not a lot of people are talking about. And when you factor in the XP and how much you have to use to get the min-max, it starts to become quite penalizing and tilting to actually try and get the min-maxed substats you need to balance your character and balance their ratios. Now, what has prompted this topic out of nowhere, and this is obviously a topic that we've all been complaining about, is this man Ryuku Sensei. Now, Ryuku Sensei has covered this. Feel free to go watch his video, but he has been kind enough to share the data with us, and I thought to myself, why not make a non-react video where we can just look at the stats and it's all me. We're gonna do one all me. We appreciate you, Ryuku Sensei. I'll make sure to say HP every time I say see HV in here. Shouts out to you, my man. We appreciate you. Bro just exposed Wuthering Waves. It is insane, man. They try to hide it too. It's actually in the Korean side, but he found it anyway. Jesus Christ, what a detective. So anyway, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to not miss any updates.
I guess I better go subscribe to VXV Gacha.
If we go over here, you will see that actually what happened recently is that the South Korean government, this is not a joke, this is real. The South Korean government has forced Wuthering Waves Kuro games to show exactly the probabilities of everything within their gacha game, for complete transparency to the consumer. I have never seen a government that is so pro-consumer like the South Korean one when it comes to a gacha game like this one. Like, Jesus, holy gigabased. America could never, man. America needs to step its game up, man. What happened to America, the greatest country in the world? What's going on? But anyway, Ryuku was kind enough to take all the Korean stuff here and translate it into a Excel spreadsheet for us to look into. And so we're going to look at the probabilities of actually obtaining these little, let's just say, for lack of a better term, annoying pieces of stuff. I'll say stuff in the substats we want. So for probabilities rounded, apparently it seems to obtain a substat, they're all equal. The percentages are all evenly spread out. You know, you can just get this. Now, sometimes I think this at first doesn't seem true, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense in considering my experiences, because I think the reason why people think they get defense and HP and all this stuff a lot, because those are negative experiences. Typically, we remember the negative more than the positive, unfortunately. It's like that test where they show, I love you, I love you, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I love you. People are just gonna look at the I hate you. For example, if you have a blank a painting, like a painting on the wall, it's completely blank, but there's like this little black dot in it. Guess where your focus is gonna be at? You guessed it, it's gonna be the black dot. We're creatures that really care about the odd thing out, and when things don't go our way, it can be very tilting for us. We care about that a lot. Sometimes when things go our way, it's supposed to feel the norm, right? Because we're the MC. Of course, this is like, duh. I'm not gonna keep sweating over the fact that, oh my god, I can't believe that went my way. Holy. Sometimes we do, but a lot of the times we don't. So yeah, I think that's very important in terms of also admitting to ourselves that for the most part, we too play a role on how some of these things and how tilting they can be to us is also our fault too, from a lack of awareness and a lack of discipline in our approach and interaction with systems like these. So it seems they are equal, and I think I can say that too, because sometimes I would keep rolling crit damage and crit rate a lot, and I just wouldn't get them in pairs. Now, the problem obviously starts when you take into consideration the fact that you need to pair certain stats with this. Now, at face value, it looks fair, but the problem starts when, well, I need crit rate and crit damage. I need both of them. This is just the baseline for most DPSs. And next, you have to factor in stuff like the type of basic attack, heavy attack, resonance skills, resource liberation, like which one is going to work the best for them specifically. You start factoring that in. You factor in energy recharge. You want it from time to time in certain one of them. Typically you will, but you know what I mean? Like it starts to make the actual gear you want even harder to get the more you take this into consideration. Next, you have the probabilities of high rolls and low rolls. Now, this is where a lot of us might crash out. Now, typically what they do is for low rolls, it is the second lowest probability to get next to the highest roll. The highest roll is the lowest thing you can get. The lowest roll is the second lowest. And next, the ones in the middle are the highest chances you can get. Obviously, the one that is closest to the highest is going to be less probable than the one closest to the lowest. Duh. Same applies to attack percent. I think energy regen as well. Energy regen is a little interesting because there's a lot of them here, but all in all, it feels balanced. And I think like the more you see this, the more you think back in your own experiences interacting with this system, you start to realize that, you know what, this makes actual sense considering my experiences as well. It kind of checks out. Now, all of them are the same except 2 substats. I wonder which one they are. You guessed it. It's going to be crit rate and crit damage. Now, here's where the problem starts. See, this is fine. Lowest roll is the second lowest, sure. The highest roll is the less probable, sure. You know what, fair, that's enough. But the middle ones are easy to get. And I think meeting somewhere in the middle is fine. Like, that's the average luck. You know what, fuck it. I'll take it. You know, it makes higher rolls, you know, that it has that shock factor. Ooh, snap. Because here's the thing that annoys me the most. I would get 10% crit rate, but the rest of the substats suck. That's another layer of RNG, by the way. Like, sometimes you would get the high roll. You're just like, oh my God, I lucked out. And I want to use this item so bad. But it's just that the rest of the substats are all garbage. So it doesn't matter. And hence why I mentioned right off the bat, multiple substats being required is a huge issue when it comes to this system. So anyway, going back to crit rate and crit damage and the way they went about it, I'm sad to report some bad news. It seems that we have been getting screwed over all this time. If we look over here, you will notice that the lowest rolls are the highest chance to obtain. That's right. Contrary to the rest of the stats, the highest chance for you to get something when it comes to crit rate and crit damage is the lowest roll possible. Well, the lowest, second lowest, and third lowest, those are the higher chances you can get. Now, I'm not gonna lie. If it's, for example, 7.5 crit rate, I'll take it. I will. Hey, look, because here's the thing. The more you factor in how many resources you need, min-maxing all the layers of RNG I've already mentioned. For example, you actually get one substat, it is a higher roll, but you don't get the second substat, therefore this doesn't matter. You want to, let's just say, meet somewhere in the middle where you just want at least a middle ground where it's good enough, where it helps you balance everything, but not the best, right? Like, I think it's a very, very disciplined approach. So if I'm to get 7.5 to like 15, I'm good. I'm good. The ones after that are all 8%. And also the highest ones are obviously going to be 3%. I think like the rest of them. Shit, shouts out to crit rate. At least 3% for the highest rolls. Basic attack, heavy attack, etc. They're 2.91. Yeah, you have... Hey, actually for the rest of them... Oh, hey, yo! I want you to... Hey, W Kuro Games for making it that crit rate and crit damage highest rolls are exactly 3% instead of the other stats, which are 2.91. It's actually 0.09% more. Yeah, boy. Hell yeah, boy. And so anyway, Jesus Christ. It turns out, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why... You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this. If we go over here to my Wuthering Waves account, you will notice this trend very, very present. Here we go, for example. Crit rate, 6.3%. Crit damage, 12.6%. For example, here, I was, it's pretty lucky, but there's a reason why I stopped at this one, because I still haven't managed to get a second crit damage substat, and those are a few scarce. Here we go, another one. Crit rate, 6.3%, 15% crit damage. This one, we got pretty lucky on this one. I'm pretty proud of this one. And next we have, again, 12% crit damage, unfortunate, and 8% crit rate. Moving on, for example, this is Lucilla. This is my most recent character. This is one I have really, really sweated, and this is why I'm very, very frustrated with the exposure of these ratios, because the fact is, in these percentages, because the fact is, I have been working very hard to min-max as much as possible at some point in time, and I gave up because I started to recognize the fact that caring about mid-maxing made my gaming experience tilting and not enjoyable more than anything else. And so, for example, if we go over here, the reason why I'm running this one without any crit damage substat is because if we go to the rest of my echoes and their substats, you will notice a certain trend, which is 6.3 crit rate. This one, I think I was pretty lucky in crit damage, but in terms of crit rate, it was 6.9. Another 6.3 on this one. And this one, I was finally lucky enough to get 8.7. This was the last one. I remember this was the last one where I finally was like, you know what, Gabrena, you're going to put this in your pipe and you smoke it, because I wanted this to be 70. But unfortunately, I could not because of these low rolls. And just keep emphasizing on min-maxing her means that all future characters, which I'm planning to get, I cannot just level up their gear. And so going back here, you will notice that, yeah, this makes total sense. Like when you look at the experience you have with the game, especially when it comes to the substats of crit rate, crit damage, this makes total sense. Like I think these are exactly it, because I thought at first like maybe they are lying. No, this is actually the way things are. And so yeah, there it is, man. Now we know exactly what we're dealing with. We know exactly how to maybe best navigate it, because I don't think they're gonna change the ratios ever. The transducer is an attempt to fixing this artificially created problem. It's not doing any solution to us at all. It's very expensive to get. It should be like the modifier. The modifier helps a lot with certain layers of RNG, as I've noticed. Like at least, because I think in my experience, and I speak for a lot of players here, the more you farm and through the modifier, getting the main stat isn't that complicated. But the substats are the biggest problem that makes even that layer of RNG being easy not matter as much. So ultimately, the biggest layer of RNG that is most important to us now is definitely the substats. Let's not even talk about the higher rolls and lower rolls. I would love for them to be like NTE. Also, something that Wuthering Waves is lacking in terms of the substat system is definitely, it doesn't show you which stats you're gonna get, which I think is something even more important. I think even Genshin Impact has it. I'm surprised they don't have this one here yet, because at least if I know what stat I get to preserve some of the resources, which, mind you, I think are more important in this game than the rest of the games, especially when you're trying to mid-max, because a lot of people complain about the tubes to level up echoes. Those are pretty problematic. And tuners, don't even get us started on tuners. So I think what we should be encouraging is definitely an application to substats where we can see what substats we're going to get, a different way to get the transducers, maybe through the battle pass, by leveling the battle pass. It's kind of like the modifier. They should just add it there with them as well. I think that could be a pretty good positive thing to have within the game to help players navigate the, let's just say, balancing aspects of characters. Now, whilst we don't want to have the best builds, we at least want to have a somewhat balanced build to make us at least play with the character as efficient as possible and make our daily grind feel rewarding and not as tilting as it is rewarding, because I feel like we have to go through a lot of tilts before we reach that reward, which, considering the casual approach these games encourage us to have, is a bit of a negative more than a positive, because that tilt can be okay in competitive games, but this game is not competitive, really. I think I speak for a lot of guys when I say that, because you know what I'm saying, like sometimes you be tilting but you still keep playing. It's like, bro, relax, just stop. But these games are not for that. Like, it's not competitive. It's supposed to be a relaxing downtime. It's kind of how they want you to play them as well. And when you don't get to have that through these engineered, artificially created problems, through these RNG layers, it becomes very problematic. And especially when it's so blatant when you look at something like the crit rate and crit damage, high rolls versus the low rolls. A final thing, the reason why I think crit rate and crit damage are even more so a problem, because I've noticed even supports, sub DPSs want crit rate and crit damage as well. Like, for example, something like Genshin Impact, like you can get it, for example, what's his name, Kazuha, you just run Elemental Mastery, that's like your sub DPS, and that's pretty good. You know, that's pretty nice. I don't know, man. It feels very, very complicated. Even your supports want a good balance of crit rate and crit damage, more so than the other games I've played. I don't know. It feels very tricky to manage. And then when you consider the layers of RNG they added to that, it can be very tilting before it is rewarding. So yeah, but then again, this is the inflated artificial value they have to create to entice you even more to want to log in every single day, so that you feel that you are working on something, which is very important from a developer perspective. Because let's call a spade a spade. If we were them, we would be doing the exact same thing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. I understand the strategy behind it. I understand the incentive behind it. It's smart business. But you got to meet us somewhere in the middle, because the way those are, I don't know, man, they kind of piss us off. I'm not gonna lie. And especially now I realize that after putting all this work, I was just playing on odds that weren't really fair, and that's annoying. So yeah, just do him like the rest of the stats, for crying out loud. Like, why are you doing crit rate and crit damage like that? That's just bad. Like, do him like the rest of the stats. Jesus. So yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. Be seeing you.